2, 1. Okay.
My name is Nick. I work at the Coalition on Homelessness. I'm a volunteer with the Human Rights Work Group. Like you said, I'm here to talk about the Safeway on Church and Market, the recycling center, namely at Church and Market. It has been going on, the fight, for about 6 months now. Safeway gave them an eviction notice. They didn't fight in a court because they didn't think they had a chance, but now they realize there's lots of community backing. The Coalition, Poor Magazine, many other community organizers have come on board because we realize it's the last one in the northern half of the city. In the rest of the parts of the city, there are no other places to actually bring your recyclables. They have like reverse vending machines, which we know doesn't really fit under the law. The law says that certain municipalities have to provide recycling centers for people to, because we actually pay the deposit every time we buy a can, and we're actually I didn't know first translation, and we every time we buy a can or a bottle, we pay 5 or 10 cents for that bottle, and we're supposed to get that deposit back. That's our money, and we shouldn't let Safeway keep it. We shouldn't let the recycling centers keep it. It's our money. So every time that people bring them back, for some reason, it has a lot to do with gentrification, of course. Those huge luxury condos are being built across the street. And their arguments are that there's people with shopping carts coming up. There's people on the buses with bags of cans. There's poor people, essentially. There's poor people of color, and they just don't. Exactly, and that's the main argument. There's nothing really else against it other than the fact that poor people exist and they're in their space, what they consider their space now, which has been there like almost 20 years or something, I believe. It's been there a really long time. And so they are being evicted. The eviction date was the 1st of July. But tomorrow we know the sheriff is coming, and the sheriff is coming at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And so what we're planning on doing is obviously protesting that. Several of us will be blockading ourselves in front of the sheriff to hopefully, we will get arrested probably, but hopefully the goal is to actually push them back, create a big buzz, let the community know that it's still there. And like I said, it's the last one in the northern part of the city, so this has implications for small businesses like all the bodegas on the corners. They're going to have to start giving the recycling, they're going to have to start giving the reimbursement, the 5 cents for a can, which can be a problem for them because they're going to end up losing their money, and then they have to bring these cans themselves to get the money back for themselves. So small businesses could be losing out. Safeway is going to just pay $100 a day. That's the fine, and they could afford it. They consider it cost of business $365,000 a year. They consider it just part of the business plan. So they're willing to take that hit. Whole Foods is doing that as well, because it's only major if you sell over more than $2 million worth of recyclables. That's when you have to be a recycling center, or pay $100 a day. And so they're deciding to pay $100 a day, which is implicating all these other small businesses. And obviously eliminating the last one in the northern part of the city. So people are going to be forced to go to Bayview, down in Excelsior, to the last remaining recycling centers. The problem is we know there already was one woman killed on her bicycle going down there, down to the Bayview. We know she was recycling because she had tons of cans with her, tons of bags of cans, and she was hit and killed on her bicycle. So this is something that is going to implicate a lot of people, put a lot of people in danger, and and Muni's telling people they can't be on the bus with these cans as well. So I don't know what the city expects us to do. The city says they want zero waste, meaning they want to recycle everything, but the majority of our recycling in the city is done by recycling centers. It's like 57% or something is done by recycling centers. It's like millions and millions and millions of dollars are generated every year by people bringing in recyclables. And so that's it. Tomorrow is supposed to be the eviction date, what the sheriff does on Wednesdays, and so we plan on going there. We're asking for the community's help, and we know it's an injustice. We know that this is an economic justice issue, and that it's really also a social justice issue, obviously, because the sole reason they don't want it there is because it's poor people.
Exactly. Okay, questions from audience or folks in the news production meeting? Preguntas? Yeah.
Is it, do you have a website?
We do. We have the coalition website. It's not the best. There is one. It's called Zero Waste San Francisco. We started that with our little subcommittee group that we have going on.
And I think I missed one thing. Is Safeway the instigator, or would they be the one if we were just to, rather than targeting gentrification and overall screwing with people, would they probably be the first thing we look at as the target, the one who are instigating this?
Yeah, I think they're the primary target because the recycling center's on their land, and so they're evicting them. But, you know, the city's also our target because Scott Wiener is pressuring them to get rid of it. He's written newspaper articles about it. So he's definitely a target. The mayor doesn't want it there. Yeah, and there's also city money invested in it. Like, they built a wall there. The city put a couple of tens of thousands of dollars to build that wall because people didn't want to see the poor people then. So they built a wall. The city funded it, and now Safeway is evicting them, even though the city's actually invested in this recycling center.
And let me give a little backup too for listeners, viewers. As a recycler myself, yo soy reciclador, right? What other piece of it that, and thank you for that, but the other piece of it that people need to understand is that Safeway is trying to compete with the new gentrifying forces because Whole Paycheck just moved in across the street. Now, what's interesting is Whole Paycheck and Trader Joe's never have recycling centers. Well, they're as much accountable to our recyclers as Slaveway or Safeway. And so one of the things that I'm telling people who are, you know, regular people who have jobs and houses and homes and cars